Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So today's video is going to be part 2 of the series that I started last week, which if you haven't seen that video yet, go ahead and click on the link above to see that video where we talk about everything that you should be doing in the wedding planning process 9 to 12 months out from your wedding. In today's video, we're going to talk about all the things you should check off your list 8 months from your wedding. So at this point in your wedding planning process, you should have your date chosen, your venue selected, hopefully, your budget set, and a good idea of your guest count, as well as ideally a caterer booked for both food and alcohol, a wedding planner if that is something that you do plan to have, and potentially your photographer as well. If you haven't booked your photographer yet, this is the time that you should be doing so. And many photographers do offer an engagement session included into their wedding package. This not only gives you a extra little perk for having them as your wedding photographer, but you also get a chance to work with them and get a sense of what it's going to be like on your wedding day so that you're a little bit more comfortable with the photographer prior to your wedding day, which also will make your photos just that much better. So whether you already hired your wedding photographer or you're doing it during this time frame, also schedule your engagement photos, as you will likely want to use those for your save the dates if you're sending those out as well. If you are choosing to do save the dates, now is the time to send them out for most weddings. If you're having a destination wedding, you can send them out as early as 9 to 12 months before your wedding. Pretty standard is 6 to 8 months, however, so you can start getting those ready during this time. About 8 months before your wedding, you also want to ask your bridal party to be in your bridal party if you haven't already. So your maid of honors, your bridesmaids, your best man, and your groomsmen should all be informed that you want them in your wedding around this time. This will also help set you up for future tasks in both this 8-month time frame and also down the road, so that you can know what information to bring to vendors like your florist, and also making decisions towards bridal attire and all of that fun stuff. So that brings me to the next vendor you should be booking, and that is your florist. You will want to set up consultations with potential florists that you're interested in, and I've done a video all about finding your wedding florist too that might help go into a little bit more detail on choosing your florist. But setting up floral consultations will help you make sure that whatever florist you're choosing to go with is going to get a good grasp on what your overall vision is and everything that you're wanting included in your wedding, and also make sure that it's within your budget. So certain things to have in mind when planning your florist or when going into these consultations. Most florists are going to ask the following questions. They're going to want to know how many people are in your bridal party, to know how many bouquets and boutonnieres to make. Also know if you want to have any other family members, parents, fathers, grandparents, whoever it might be, have wearable flowers. So if you're going to have maybe your father, if he's walking you down the aisle, and have him have a boutonniere as well, grandparents having boutonnieres or corsages, all of those numbers, have a good idea of that going into your floral consult. You also are going to want to have a general idea of what you want for centerpieces and decor. You don't have to have, the specific design and all of that figured out, because that's what the florist is going to help you come up with. But knowing whether you want like one centerpiece in the middle of the table, or if you want to have something more of a garland, if you want to have bud vases, if you want to have multiple levels of flowers across the table, that kind of a thing is going to be helpful when the florist is going to present you with the initial estimate. You also want to go in with a color palette in mind. This is going to be probably the very first thing they ask you, just to know and get a good idea of what flowers to actually include, as this will also play a part in the estimate that they give you, because certain flowers cost a different amount of money based on if they're local, if they're not, if they have to outsource them, what season it's in, and all of that. During this 8-month time frame, you should also start wedding dress shopping if you have not already. Like I mentioned in the previous video, wedding dresses can take upwards of 6 months, sometimes even longer than that, to come in and get shipped into the store for you to come pick it up and start your bridal alterations. So make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to start the wedding dress shopping process and be able to go a couple times if that's something that you're going to want to do. This is also a good time to make your wedding website if you haven't done so already, as well as starting your wedding registries. If you plan to send out save the dates during this time, you can include both of these on your save the dates if you wish. If you have a wedding website built and ready to go already, you could definitely include that on your save the date so that guests have a location to go to check in on updates about the wedding and also have access to your wedding registry. Registry. This is also when you want to decide on your music and entertainment for the night. So do you want to have a DJ? Do you want to have a live band? Make those decisions and get that vendor booked during this time as well. The final vendor that you can book during this time is your hair and makeup artist. Previously, I always found that like 4 to 6 months before the wedding was plenty of time to book a hair and makeup artist. However, lately I've been finding, at least in my area, many of them are booking out 8 to 12 months before the wedding date. So the earlier the better here. Be able to do your research and figure out who you want to do for your hair or makeup. This is the time to do that. And that isn't to say that you have to know exactly what you want for hair and makeup. Likely you will not have a total, complete idea until you have chosen your wedding dress as far as what you want for hair and makeup. And special tip here too, if you're planning on doing a trial with your hair and or makeup artist, if you can, try and schedule it the same day that you're having one of your bridal dress fittings, so that when you do go in to do that fitting, you can have the complete look and make sure that that is something that you're visualizing, that it's meeting your expectations and everything that you want, and you can kind of see the whole look together. So that's pretty much it for vendors during this time frame. You can book your baker if you want to, if you have those decisions made during this time, but it's also a good idea to at least be thinking about what you want for dessert. Do you want to just have a cake? Do you want to have a cake and other dessert options? And kind of come up with a idea for what you want for dessert and make a plan of attack to start doing tastings and contact those bakers. At this point, all of the vendor and kind of checkpoint items are getting checked off of your planning list, and you can start thinking about the fun stuff and diving into more of the overall decor and design for your wedding. So thinking through kind of what you want on your table for table settings, knowing what you're going to need to rent and what is provided by your venue and or your caterers is going to be helpful during this time so that you can start figuring out exactly what you will need to rent or purchase decor and design related wise. Will you need extra chairs? Do you need to bring in tables? Will you have to rent linens? Will you have real actual china and flatware set on the table? Are you going to have them just sitting on a buffet line? Those types of things are what I'm talking about when I refer to like design and decor. And then of course other decor items such as things you might want during your ceremony, like an arch or candles or something lining the aisle, and then any other decor inside your reception space, again, such as candles, anything in addition to the flowers that you plan on having, and of course making sure that you budget for all of it. We'll tackle more of the design related things in the next video. Up to this point, we just want to make sure that you are booking all of those important vendors before moving on to the fun stuff that is everything decor. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.